Changes are afoot for Yishun town. 10,000 new public housing flats will be built in Chencharu estate as part of a master plan. It's the latest makeover in Singapore's first housing and development board towns in the north. We take a look at how far it has come. A century ago, as part of the colonial area district of Seletar, much of the area was taken up by plantations. At first, it was gambia and pepper, then later the more profitable pineapple and rubber. In the 1930s, it moved to livestock breeding and fisheries. The Yishun New Town project started in 1976, which saw the first flats springing up in Chongpang. It was one of the earliest towns planned with what's called the neighborhood concept. Shops, supermarkets and eating places all in the center. By the 1990s, almost 190,000 residents called this place home. A town-wide refresh came a decade later. More outdoor spaces for recreation and North Point City, the first integrated mixed development in the north. Older flats also got upgrades to fix common maintenance issues. Today, around 200,000 residents enjoy many amenities across 9 neighborhoods. About 80,000 flats have been built, a result of long-term planning and constant rejuvenation. The estate holds much meaning to many, especially the first few residents who moved in. Claudia Lim speaks to one of them.
Mr. Bonnie Tan is a familiar face to many in Chongpang. For 40 years, he's been here running this furniture store. He not only works in the estate, he lives right upstairs, watching the area blossom with time.
改变很大，就是从一个很无路的甘崩，就是一个乡村，然后发展成为一个先进的城镇，从早期 交通不方便，发展到交通发达，地铁整个交通网络呢都很通畅。到现在，伊顺区呢也是成为一个很受欢迎的一个城镇。
His shop is also part of that history. Each year, residents gather outside for birthday parties and festive celebrations. Mr. Tan is also part of the Chongpang Merchants Association, involved in organizing singing competitions and stage performances. And all love for the estate seems to have rubbed off on his eldest daughter.
I really do hope to be able to settle down in Chencharu because it's super near my house, like where we are staying. Yeah, I think it will be very, very meaningful because not just my immediate family, my entire all my relatives, closer ones are all here as well. So I will hope to be able to maintain this kampong spirit here in Yishun.
We asked Adelia what she felt about Yishun being the butt of internet jokes and memes, calling it a place for weird happenings.
I think that there's a certain charm to Yishun. If you know, in the past there is the Bottle Tree Park, and then there's the Seletar Dam. So these are gems that only Yishun people will know. So I think apart from all the stereotypes and everything, these are things that I hold close and I really like about Yishun lah.
Mr. Tan hopes the town will continue to be refreshed with amenities for the younger generation to call this place their home.
We heard mention there about Chencharu, where new BTO flats are coming. Let's explore Yishun town a bit more with Mr. Jaffrey Aw. He's Director of Strategic Urban Planning at HDB. Mr. Aw, thanks so much for coming in this evening.
Good evening.
Right, we had that before. We heard the residents speaking of their experience staying in the town. A quick, shortened history of, I suppose, planning or perhaps lack of planning a century ago. And since then, careful planning about what we do about Singapore's urban places. If we look at now for Chencharu, when you think of the master plan for Chencharu, what are the things you bear in mind?
Yeah, certainly. I think to plan master planning for this area is certainly not easy. And we have to work with a lot of agencies to look at, for example, the local context. And of course, Chencharu, we have to look at a local context in the sense that it's an extension of Yishun at the southern part. So I think we also know that Yishun is one of the first town, HDB town, that we have developed in the northern part of Singapore. And since the later part of 1970s. And since then, over a span of 5 decades, we have seen a transformation of what it used to be a plantation village into what it is today, which is a vibrant and a modern town. And this really reflects...
So that's Yishun, the larger Yishun.
It really reflects the long-term efforts for urban planning. So now coming to Chencharu. Chencharu will be one of the key development area as part of the extension of Yishun, for at least for the next 1 decade. And residents can look forward to many new amenities, such as a new hawker center, interchange, and also a park that is designed uniquely to retain a bungalow on top of the hill.
All right. Actually, I'm interested in this. So Chencharu is a tenth the size of Yishun, and you're coming up with a plan for it. In a way, it's not the same as, okay, it's 1/10, so we give it 1/10 of the resources that Yishun has as a whole. Each part, as you plan it, has to fit in with all the other parts so that together they make up Yishun.
Yeah, certainly.
How do you do that? You don't just divide things into 1/10, 1/10, 1/10.
No, I think...
How do you do that?
Well, Yishun is one of the earlier towns that we adopt the neighborhood concept. Neighborhood concept is in the sense that each neighborhood, there's a neighborhood center, a neighborhood park.
And they're different from each other.
Well, of course, certainly depending on the local context. But in terms of provision of facilities, each neighborhood will have its own center, own parks, own schools, and facilities to meet the local needs. And all these neighborhoods, they are surrounding the town center. And certainly when we talk about Chencharu, it functions like a new estate, a new neighborhood, with its own neighborhood center, its own facilities as well. So that will be our latest edition, and we're excited about it.
All right. You know, you have a latest edition, say, to a family. Will the other children, so the other neighborhoods, be looking at Chencharu saying, well, it's getting all the favor. Why aren't we getting some of the favor that Chencharu is getting? So as you move one up, the others are going to be saying, we need to be leveled up as well. Well,
certainly we have not forgotten the existing estates. As part of our town planning, besides looking at the new development areas, we also have rejuvenation programs for the rest of the existing areas. This is important because we also want to make sure that as a whole, Yishun will stay vibrant, and our planning will be able to evolve with the changing needs and aspirations of our residents. We do have a lot of rejuvenation programs. For example, the Remaking Our Heartlands. We also have the Neighborhood Renewal Program, the NRP, and also the Home Improvement Program, the HIP. So all these are implemented in different parts of Yishun. Just take, for example, in 2007, when HDB first launched the ROH program, Yishun is one of the Remaking Our Heartland. And Yishun is one of the 3 areas that selected to enjoy this town-wide comprehensive rejuvenation for Yishun. So what were the other 2 areas? The other 2 areas, the time we have Dawson, we also have Pongo. That was the first batch of our ROH program. Is that, so when we talk about Chencharu part of Yishun, but Yishun part of, I mean, you plan urban planning for Singapore. You don't just say, I'm only looking at Yishun. It has to work, each little part has to work with the bigger part. So Yishun has to work within the larger part of the entire regional context. Is there any emphasis on making any one neighborhood different or special, or is it? Well, if you talk about the regional context, of course, in the North region, we do have towns like Woodlands, Sembawang, and Yishun. Yishun does have its own niche area. For example, Yishun has many green spaces. I mentioned about Remaking Our Heartland, ROH, and as part of the program, we have also transformed the town center, creating more outdoor spaces for residents to relax and recreate. For example, the Yishun Pond Park. So that's one niche area. And at Yishun Town Parks, as well as the various neighborhood parks, are also upgraded. We've connected by green corridors to enhance the accessibility to the residents. Another niche area I can think of for Yishun is that this town, it has a rich heritage. And that's something that we want to leverage on when we do town planning. How would you define that rich heritage? For example, a lot of social memories. I mentioned earlier that Yishun used to be a plantation villages. So even when we redevelop, or even when we look at Chencharu, we also try as much as we can to retain some of the iconic historical places like the bungalow I mentioned on top of the park. Yeah. Another example I can think of is that we have this statue of a farmer and watering cans, which we put it as a precinct marker in Chongbang. So this thing will help us to recall what the place used to be like, which is Plantation
Final
Village.
question. We recall the past, we also look to the future. Demographic changes, that's on everyone's mind. Yishun planning ahead for that?
Well, certainly, all our plannings is we always look at evolving needs, changing needs, and of aspirations of residents. And I mentioned that Yishun, we started development in the 70s, so we're talking about 5 decades. So that means that Yishun has a mix of new and young residents. So, of course, when nation ages, we will expect to see more elderly residents. But when we start to inject BTO in old estates, that's when we open up opportunities for young residents to come into the town to rebalance the demographics.
So meeting current needs and looking to future needs as well.
Certainly.
Thanks so much for coming in to share your insights with us. That's Mr. Jaffrey Aw, Director of Strategic Urban Planning at HDB.